Hi, everyone. Sorry about the delay. We were just having a few technical difficulties, but we're ready to get started now. So welcome to the PowerToFly and Timing webinar. We're really excited that you could join us today for our webinar, Meet the Team Hiring Timing's Fullstack Developers, featuring three awesome members of Timing's Innovative Digital Group. So Alex Charalambidis, VP of Brand Engineering, Allison Mango, a product manager, and Natasha Fernandez, a senior software engineer, who's actually a recent addition to Timing's team by way of PowerToFly. My name is Amy Trappe. I'm a recruiter and talent manager here, and thanks so much for joining us today. Before we jump in, just a few housekeeping items that we wanted to take care of. So all attendees are muted by default, but feel free to chat in the chat window or ask questions in the Q&A window, and we'll get to them during the Q&A portion of the call. And as some of you are asking, this presentation will be recorded. So if you have to drop off at 1, you'll receive a link via email after the presentation ends. And just a look at today's agenda briefly. First, we're going to meet the team and learn a little bit more about their roles at Timing. Then we'll dive into a demo of their brand new front-end platform with a little time thereafter for some questions. And then we'll hear from our panelists about what you can expect from life at Timing, with some additional time for questions and answers from our audience. But please still chime in with questions at any time during today's presentation. We'll fill them during our Q&A sessions later on. So we can get started now. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our guests today, Alex Charalambidis, Natasha, and Allison. Alex, it would be great if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Timing.
Sure. So I started with Timing about 2.5 years ago. I was started running the engineering team for the sports group, and recently took over running brand engineering. And brand engineering looks after all the digital properties for the US brands. So people.com, si.com, time.com, Fortune, InStyle, Essence, etc. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. And Natasha, if you could go next, just tell us about your background and what you do at Timing since joining.
Yeah, I'm Natasha Fernandez. I'm a senior software engineer at Timing with the Travel and Luxury Group. So I've been with the company for a little over 3 months, but I'm really happy working on all the exciting stuff we do here at Timing.
Awesome. Thanks, Natasha. And then Allison, we'd love to hear about you as well on product.
Hi guys, I'm Allison. I've been at Timing for 2.5 years as well. I started on the editorial side of the business and just recently moved into product. Most of my time in editorial was on digital, and I am covering Cooking Light and Health.com, 2 websites that are under the lifestyle group.
Awesome. Thank you as well. We're so glad all 3 of you could be here with us today to give us some insight into Timing. And with that being said, Alex, we'll go ahead and give you control to lead the product demo. Take it away.
Sure. So, there's obviously a lot going on with so many brands. But one of the largest endeavors that we embarked upon this year was to find a front end and build a front end for to unify all of our brands. And what we found, so what we're building is essentially a front end platform that speaks to the CMSs and allows us to kind of take the guesswork out of the grunt out of maintaining things like our article templates and recipe templates, galleries, those types of things, and focus more on innovation. But this particular project is, most importantly for us was to help us achieve scale for our digital business. Right? So we've got this incredibly talented brand engineering team, and we found that we spent an inordinate amount of time maintaining those core templates, right? But an article template is kind of the same thing across, any one of our sites, right? So why do we have to keep replicating the same work over and over again? So we're actually in the middle of this project right now. We've rolled it out on 9 of the brands, so the lifestyle group, health and and Cooking Light, a couple that we've already mentioned. Those are on there. All of the travel brands that Natasha has been working on, those are on the new platform as well. And we're continuing that with with the entertainment group, style group, sports and news over the next month. So by mid-September, we'll have everybody unified across this platform. So moving to the next slide. So what we had was a situation where we had, we have 6 teams within brand engineering that focus in on the verticals and have those relationships with those brands. But each one of them, some of them are kind of unified within that vertical. Some of them had, multiple sort of platforms that they were maintaining. And, if, anyone in engineering knows the more platforms you have, the more maintenance you have to do. When you want to innovate, you have to innovate across multiple platforms. So, we kind of, we're spending a lot of time spinning our wheels. So what we're moving to is on the next slide. Is really this one platform, and we have 50+ engineers in brand engineering, all contributing now to this platform. So when we're working on a new research module or a new video module or e-commerce or what have you, instead of just 1 or 2 brands getting the benefit of that, all of the brands will get the benefit of that. It doesn't mean that we're taking the sort of flexibility away from the brand. We think that's very important. So we've kind of tried to find a balance between sort of this central platform type idea, but still giving the brands the flexibility to be able to innovate on top of that. So if somebody thought that they had, a better way to do a gallery, we could very easily run that test on top of the platform, and then, kind of measure it and see, well, yeah, this is better or it isn't better. And if it is better, then there's the opportunity to kind of promote that to the core platform and have everybody benefit from that. So we've got a couple of examples. The architecture is pretty straightforward. If you go to the next slide, we have so the front end, which is a Node Express front end. We're using handlebars for templating. Everything's set up in AWS. So we're providing that to our teams so they have the flexibility to be able to play around in AWS and work within AWS. So part of this whole project really was to also train our engineers on not just the platform, but also all the technologies around that. So in partnership with Amazon, we've been doing regular training sessions, immersion sessions, and all the technologies that we're using, and in other stuff that we're not using. We may find some opportunities there for innovation later. Then, the layer below that is the data layer. Really, we have 2 CMSs that we've standardized on. One is WordPress VIP, one is the CMS Drupal CMS. But, so our brands have sort of different data points. So in order to kind of unify that, we introduced this data layer, which is essentially the API where we communicate with all of with the CMS and get it back in a predictable manner. This is actually really exciting because it allows us now to build knowing that our content's going to be coming back in a way we expect. So this gives us more room to innovate on top of. So if we go to the last slide. So we have just a couple of examples. These are examples out in the wild right now. We have an article template, gallery template, and recipe template. As I mentioned, the unification effort is really around these core workhorse templates. Taking into account best practices, so trying to focus in on SEO, making sure the analytics are on point, focusing in on user experience, and trying to put that ahead of just kind of the ads and what have you. So although there are ads on the page, we try to keep the user experience as clean and as interesting and as engaging as possible. So, the initial results have been positive. We really like where we're headed. One thing that's really great about this is once we do have everybody on the platform, when we do make an improvement, we're lifting, all boats as opposed to just one. So that's the key the platform's called Element. There's, we've had a little bit in the press about it, but over the next month, I'm sure you'll see some more.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. And now I'd like to open the floor to our audience. Do you guys have any questions about what he just went over? We'll give you some time to marinate on that. And if you do think of anything, we'll open it up again to questions after we discuss life at timing. So you can definitely just add them in the chat as well. So something I'm sure many of our audience members are curious about is sort of life day to day at timing. So feel free to ask again in the Q&A as they spring to mind. But we'll start with Natasha as the newest member of the timing team. You and I worked together to get you hired at Timing earlier this year. Can you share a bit of what that process was like for you?
Actually, the process has been great. Timing has been, a great company to interact with from the very beginning, actually. I felt that the interview process was really nice. I got to talk to a lot of different people in the company, learn what the company was all about, and I think we had a lot of meaningful conversations about what I was doing, what I wanted to, bring to the company, and I felt that the interviewers were genuinely interested in what it had to offer, and it was great. I mean, it was a great experience for me, and that we talk about it all the time, and how afraid I was, and and I get very nervous in those type of situations, and it wasn't one of the best interviews that I had throughout the process looking for that. So yeah, and definitely made an impact in terms of it made a big impression on me, and it was an important point when the time came for me to make a decision to join the company or not.
Awesome. Well, I know it was definitely a pleasure to work with you as well throughout that process. Alex, we were wondering if you could give us some insight into what the hiring process is like from your perspective, as a timing team member.
Sure. So, we're always looking for bright, talented people. And we try to, what we try to do during the interview process is, obviously get a good idea of who the person is that the candidate is, and get an idea of their culture fit and their skills and what have you. But we're also trying to give them a cross section of the people that they're going to work with at timing. So we're obviously very cognizant of people's time in this day and age. Everyone's super busy, and it's not always that easy to get away from work. So we try to do the actual face-to-face interviews all in one loop, right? So in a day, it's usually about a half a day or whatever. You'll meet 4 or 5 people. And those 4 or 5 people are going to range from sort of the hiring manager, so who you might be working with directly, probably a peer on that team, and then various folks from within the organization, some very senior engineers and what have you. Those interviews can be quite tough, but they're a challenge, right? And then you'll meet some of the leadership as well, and that'll give you sort of the culture fit. It gives you an idea of of these people that you're going to be interacting with every day, and it gives you an opportunity to explore different subjects as well. So by the time we come out of that, we usually have a very good idea of the type of candidate that we're looking at, and on either side of that, we have a couple of calls. HR obviously will kind of make the initial contact. You'll speak to your hiring manager before we actually go into the loop. And then, one of the things that we look at when we're interviewing a candidate is we look for, is this person not just a fit for a specific position, but are they a fit for timing, right? Because sometimes when you're looking for a specific position, you kind of get sort of blinders on. You're looking at this position. This great candidate might come in, but they're not quite the fit for the role that you're looking at. So by doing this, it actually allows us to pick up talent for maybe some other disciplines, right? So maybe it's a product manager candidate, or this is somebody who could be a tech lead, and there's an opening for a tech lead in another group, or something like that. So, you know, it just, we try to identify if they're a fit for Time Inc. and you know, we're always looking for, you know, new and great people that can make an impact. So.
Awesome. And diving a little deeper into that, can you give us some insight into the essential attributes that you are looking for in a new team member?
I mean, there's the soft skills, right, I think, that are super important. You know, it's an enthusiasm and a curiosity for like how things work. You know, we're looking for folks that are innovative and want to, you know, make something better and build something better. Communication is a huge part of it. You know, we are, you know, at the core, we're a communication company, right? We're talking, you know, we're telling stories, right? We're communicating with the world. And so, you know, that's to the external, but also internal. We work with a lot of different groups, you know, from an engineering standpoint. We're working with the product team, we're working with the editorial team, our sales team, the business. So, you know, you're communicating with those people. And it's not just, you know, the managers that are going out there and communicating. It's our engineers sitting down with an editor and saying, you know, how can I make your experience better? Or, you know, I see you using this thing. Have you ever tried, you know, this other tool? I think it's better. You know, trying out. So, you know, it's through that collaboration and communication that we get better as a company. And then, you know, there's the technical skills as well. So, you know, right now the front end stack is, you know, is node based. So, you know, JavaScript skills are premium, of course. You know, experience in Node, experience in React, experience in Angular, all of that helps. You know, and then a willingness to learn on top of that, right? So, you know, coming in with sort of an open mind and you know, bringing those skills to the table. You know, but also like willing to learn the platform and kind of figure out better ways to do it. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. And what about you, Allison? What do you look for during the hiring process? Anything specific?
I definitely have to agree with Alex that communication is huge. Our teams work so closely together. Our product team sits with our engineering team, sits close to our editorial team. So having someone who's able to communicate across all the different branches of the business is key. But I also think that having a sense of personal responsibility in your own work is also hugely important. We want to have people who are going to be excited about their work and take responsibility. So they're contributing to this whole bigger picture. So we want to have everyone who has a really great work ethic.
Awesome. And I know that you've been with Time Inc. for 2.5 years now, Allison. Could you tell us what the culture is like from your perspective?
The culture is great. I feel like one of the biggest things that has been great at Time Inc. is all of the managers. All of my managers have, in addition to being my bosses, have been great mentors to me. So when I was making career changes from editorial into product, I had a lot of great mentorship there. So I think that's a huge part of the Time Inc. culture. It's very supportive of your career goals and what you want to do. So I would say that that's something that's kept me around for a very long time. And
that's awesome. And then I guess speaking of collaboration across the different teams, as you all were discussing, can you tell us a bit in detail as a product manager, how you work with Natasha and Alex on engineering?
Yeah, well, we sit, like I said, our product team sits with our engineering team. So there's a lot of face-to-face communication, conversation that's happening every single day. But for a project like Element, which was largely driven by the more technical requirements, we had a series of meetings to lay down our requirements, what we gathered from all the other teams in the building, like our editorial teams, our ads teams, and everything like that, deliver that to the engineering teams who were able to make something amazing out of it. And so I think that that's kind of how it works. We work very, very closely and kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And I think it's really great to have a group of engineers who are willing to help us and work together.
Amazing. And Alex, I know that you shared a lot of information about your work during the awesome product overview. But can you explain how your team fits into timing's business structure as a whole?
So we fit into the digital organization. So there's is the business organization, which is where the product teams, the GMs and sales teams fit into, and then there's the digital product and engineering side, which is which is where we fall into. So we actually report into Nicholas Butterworth, who reports into Jen Wong, and under her leadership is kind of what really sparked the impetus to build out Element.
Awesome. And Alex, one more question for you. What do you find is the most rewarding part of working at Timing?
So, there's always challenges, right? I think the challenges keep me engaged, but I think the primary thing for me is the people. I love the people I work with. It is, I've got a lot of good friends, and I've made a lot of great friends in a very short period of time. And we support each other, right? So even with something like Element, which quite frankly is a monstrous task, but we've done it. It's a very short timeline with a lot of technical challenges, but through all the collaboration across the various groups, and supporting each other, we were able to make this work, right? So it's something I didn't mention earlier, but one of the most important things that we wanted to foster was the sense of ownership of the platform, and the only way that we could get ownership is if everyone owned it, right? So we encouraged contributions from the very get-go, and now I think we have, not even directly tied to the project. We have about 40 to 50 contributors to the actual platform itself. Obviously Natasha has done so, and there's groups from Seattle. We've had contributions from our India team, even contributions on the infrastructure side from our UK team. So it has to be, to answer your question in a very long way, it's the people.
That's awesome. It sounds like a really great working environment. And I guess a similar question for you, Natasha. What's been the most rewarding thing since you joined at Time, and what's your experience been like as a woman specifically?
The experience has been awesome. I mean, I love working with engineers here, with everybody actually. I mean, that's the cool thing about the job, that you get to work with so many different people and so many talented people. I agree with Alex. One of the biggest things for me is just being able to collaborate, and the collaborative spirit of the grand engineering team is amazing. The product team, I mean, it's been great. I also get to mentor junior engineers, which is really cool. We recently hired a new junior engineer on our team, and I love the fact that she gets a female mentor for her first engineering job. So that's pretty awesome. And I don't know, I guess as long as I'm learning and I'm collaborating and I'm being challenged, I'm happy. So, and specifically as a woman in technology, I don't know, I just don't think about it too much. It's just one of those things. I feel like among my peers, they appreciate my contributions, they welcome them. So I mean, I honestly don't find myself thinking about it too often, just because I feel that I'm integrated, that I'm part of the team. I'm not just included, because yeah, inclusion is great, but what we really need to achieve is integration. That's the key. If you're not integrated in a team and you're not being appreciated, and inclusion doesn't mean anything. So. And I feel integrated, and I'm very happy to be part of this team.
That's awesome. Definitely, we want it to be the norm in that way. And that's it for our questions. So we've reached the next Q&A portion. I see that there are a few that have popped up, so thank you for those. We'll just get started with a few in the chat box. Can one of you share example of shared components?
Yeah, so I can probably answer that. So the shared component can be anything from a video player to a recirc module to you know, images, galleries, basically any unit of functionality is a shared component, or can be a shared component. You know, when you look at the sites, it's essentially just we've created this library of Lego blocks, if you will, that have self-contained functionality, and anywhere that you use them, they will work and will fit the space that's provided for them. This allows us to be responsive across the board and makes the components a lot more versatile. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, awesome. And again, from Kazal, on the architecture overview, they didn't see a middleware layer between front end and data. They would like to know if that is by design.
So we are currently using API Gateway for the API layer, and we've looked at a couple of different options there. So it's a combination of work at the CMS level and work at the within API Gateway, which is what delivers the feeds that we use.
Okay. We'll just finish up with the technical question. You mentioned JavaScript expertise. Is that specifically Node or with vanilla JavaScript or other advanced frameworks be applicable? This is from Amy.
Yeah, so basically we're not using any, the front end is pretty simple, right? So one of the things that is very important to us is page performance. So anything that goes into that page has to have a function, right? So there is a lightweight JavaScript framework which we've built and which we use, but for the most part, it's pretty simple on the front.
Okay. Another great question from Sophia: is Element broken down into microservices, and do you use GitHub for version control?
So yes, we use GitHub, and we have some microservices. We have, it just depends. Some, there's a tendency sometimes to kind of go the entire microservice route. What we try to do is, use microservices where it makes sense. Things like, I don't even know if I call it a microservice, but like our sports data service for SI.com, that's a distinct service. The content service that we're using is, obviously that's a large application across all of the CMSs. But I mean, there's many opportunities to do that. I know that we have some interesting projects going on in the entertainment group that involve that, also within the news group. So, it's a mixture of both.
Okay, and Brazy actually wanted to know if you all are building your platform around two different CMSs, both WordPress and Drupal.
So it's one of our, one of the challenges is that we have, these different, we have like the two CMSs, and really the API layer is to allow us to be almost CMS agnostic. So, with the, if tomorrow a CMS comes out that's like the most amazing CMS we've ever seen, and we just have to move to this, we would be able to do that without having to, re-engineer the front end.
Awesome. Now these are more, I guess, about life at timing. Linda would like to know, how long does the hiring process take from application to offer generally, and how are these interviews held? How did you find out about the board referral?
So it depends, but usually the cycle's about over the course of 3 to 5 weeks, right? I know from my personal experience, it was very quick. I was in for an interview and hired within 3 weeks. But I think it just depends. But we try to be as expedient as possible. I know that, we try to communicate with the candidates at various checkpoints throughout and keep them appraised of where we are in the process. So that's typically what we expect.
Yeah, I think for me it took about 4 weeks. I don't remember exactly. Maybe do you remember?
That's not too long in this day and age for the whole process. That's great. Tanushree would like to know where this position fits in the organizational structure of brand engineering. So I guess you're going to be hiring across the groups. Could you maybe tell everyone a little bit about that?
Sure. So we have, so there's brand engineering, as I mentioned, is structured around the 6 major verticals that we have. So there's entertainment, sports, news, style, lifestyle, and travel. And so the positions are actually kind of scattered throughout that. So it's a sort of mid to senior level engineering role. So you would be working within one of these teams. Typically, they're typically pretty flat organizations. There's not a lot of structure to them, but you may be clustered around a team lead for specific projects and so on. And in the case of something like Element, we actually had sort of an ad hoc team that was created, a couple of them that were created around the disciplines necessary to get the project stood up. So for instance, like front end, DevOps, testing, tooling, and so on. So, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but you'll be, part of one of those teams, and based on the project that you're working on, we'll kind of define sort of what we need from your skill set.
Okay, great. Julie has a question about, I guess, the makeup of the team. Since you're hiring mainly for senior level developers now, and I know that you had hired some juniors recently, is there a plan to expand and hire more juniors anytime in the future?
So we have, we try to keep a balance, right? So we have sort of 3 levels, I guess, of engineer. There's sort of your team lead or technical lead, not necessarily a manager, more of sort of the person that you're going to bring in to lead a project from start to finish. Then you've got your mid to senior level engineers. And then we have got junior engineers. At the moment, I think we filled all of our junior roles. We had, I think, 4 of them in the last couple of months, and we just literally filled the last one in the last week. But yeah, those will crop up from time to time. We also offer internship programs. So we've had, I think 8 interns across brand engineering that have been working with the various teams. And, looking at those interns, we're potentially looking at some of those to bring on board for once they get out of college.
Awesome. And then can you explain what database skills you're looking for?
I'm sorry?
What database skills you'd be looking for or that you work on?
So, I think database skills are definitely a plus. I think the role is less around the DB and more around sort of the front end technologies that we're working with. So, we're looking at Node, JavaScript, obviously HTML, CSS, all those good things. And then, a plus is having experience with DBs and the CMSs. We do encourage, the stack essentially, on the front end is all JavaScript based, right? So that's why we're kind of focusing in on that. But you are interacting with a Drupal database, and which I think is MySQL for most of the brands, and then on in WordPress as well. So I think when I look at our really senior engineers, they definitely have an understanding of those. They're not necessarily, I wouldn't call them DBAs, but they know how to work in and around a database and understand what they're looking for when they go into debugging.
Okay, awesome. And then we have a question for Allison specifically. What was the learning curve for transitioning into product? Was it full created for you, or are there often openings? And did you have to train a replacement in editorial?
So I was doing a combination of the jobs for a while. I was a producer on the health team, so I was really, really tuned into Drupal, our main product. So over time, I got a really good understanding of that. And as an editor on that brand, I was working really closely with our engineering and product team. So there was a a smooth learning curve within the company. I found a lot of opportunity to educate myself and learn from other people on the team. When I transitioned, I did train the person who replaced me. And since we work so closely, since I'm in the same brand and we work so closely with the editorial team, that's an ongoing experience, and it's not hard. It doesn't take a lot of my time in the day, but it's definitely a smooth transition, and I got a lot of support along the way, and I'm still continuing to get support.
Awesome. And then we have another question from Nutri, and that is, what kind of assignments might I expect the first 6 months on the job? And I'm guessing it would be working on Element. Alex, could you some more details maybe provide the audience with?
Yeah. So, I think we're concentrating on the migration to Element. What's next is kind of innovating within that platform, right? So I think there's going to be a sort of moving the entire sites across, so like bringing things like home pages and section fronts and tag pages and search and all that stuff across to the platform. But then, starting to look at the tools that we provide to our users and some of the functionality that goes into that. So, personalization and, sort of using machine learning to provide, content that's relevant to those users, and commenting systems, rating reviews, all of those types of things that typically we would go to a third-party vendor and would have sort of this non-native experience. But having something native to the pages and having that data available to us will potentially give us some more ideas. So there's those are not set in stone yet, but those are the types of things that we're looking at.
Okay, awesome. And then another question, what sort of groups did TimeInc make you feel supported, and how has diversity been integral to your growth thus far?
Sure. So we have, a bunch of groups. We have, Out, we have, which is WIT, we have A3, and all these groups are, kind of centered around like common interests or common, sort of communities and what have you. But what's nice about them is actually we encourage all TimeIncers to join those groups, whether you're a part of that community or not. And I think it's super helpful in the sense that you get to, understand everyone's perspectives, and to Natasha's point about feeling integrated, and that I think it always goes both ways, right? You have to have an understanding of various communities to really, be able to understand their, the things that they run up against in real life, and hopefully be able to help, and also to be able to contribute back to that community in some way.
Awesome. And then I guess, a question for Natasha. How long did it take you to understand the design of the application so you could start coding? Were the platforms fully functional when you got started?
No, it wasn't fully functional when we started. I mean, but it was an awesome challenge. I've been doing this for a long time, so and I'm very comfortable with JavaScript and Node, and so it wasn't a huge learning curve. But I also had to work on the data end of things, and I had to learn Drupal, for example, which I use very sparingly, over the years. But yeah, I just understand the data there and how things are. And I feel like the most important thing that you have to do when you start a new job is not only understand the technical aspects of the job, but also understanding the business as a whole, and actually take a look at the websites, look at the content, what kind of experience you're trying to create for users. It's just very important that you understand that, because otherwise you're never going to be able to build the right tools, the right, whatever you need to get this content to the users. So that was probably what it took a little time for me just to get used to understand what the company is trying to get to the end user. And I'm still learning, and that's awesome. just continue learning, not just about technology, because as I said, like I had to go and learn Drupal and other things, but also learn about business, learn about the operations in a large company like Timing, the culture, very, proud bunch, very proud about the history of the company, very proud about the people that we have here, and also like very proud of our brands. I mean, I feel like we do love our brands, and yeah, right?
Yeah.
We do have so it's been great.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Natasha. And we're getting this question a few times, Alex. I think I know the answer, but are you open to either working remotely for your employees or for helping with relocation to New York?
So I can't speak to helping with relocation. That'd be something that we could check in with HR and follow up on. But the focus of this particular, the roles that we're trying to fill in the short term, we're looking to have folks on site here in New York. I think a big part of the culture that we've been talking about is that sort of face-to-face collaboration, and we're lucky enough to be embedded with those brands and working with those folks on a day-to-day basis. So we want our engineers to understand what that's like. Right? So the key focus has been on site in.
Okay. Awesome. And I think that wraps up all the questions that we have for now. But if you can't tell by now, Timing is not just an influential media company, they're also incredibly diverse. So they really do make an effort to recruit and hire and develop talent from a range of backgrounds. And they do believe that they're at their best in an open, inclusive work environment that values good ideas and different voices. So this is Jen Wong. She's the Chief Operating Officer and President. I think we have a pretty cool video coming out with her where you can learn more about the great work that she's doing at Timing, and just learn a little bit more about these sort of efforts to really diversify. And then just a little bit about PowerToFly. If you haven't checked out our website thus far, I definitely suggest that you go on there. And you can learn more about our great CEOs who are really also very talented and amazing. And finally, we have some resources that we'll be sending out. So everyone joining us today will receive this presentation shortly. So just make sure you go ahead and visit these great resources that we've curated for you. And it looks like we're out of time. It is now 12:10. We really thank you all for your patience today at the start of the webinar. And like I mentioned, be sure to look for additional resources, the recording of the webinar in your inbox, and considering learning more about Timing and their open opportunities. And also, as mentioned, if you haven't created a profile on PowerToFly, make sure you do. Once you have a profile, you can apply to better jobs with companies that care, such as Timing. And you can get support on your career journey from our ever-growing community. But I would like to thank every single audience member for joining us, and of course, a huge thank you to our panelists. And we hope that we get to see you all again sometime soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy, for running this, and to all the team behind it. And we had a couple of teething problems, but this was a lot of fun. We really appreciate PowerToFly in partnership with us, and looking forward to meeting some of these folks that attended in real life. So.
Definitely. We're hoping that's the case. But yeah, thank you everyone again for attending, and make sure you check out the recording that comes to your inbox. And we hope you have a great day.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.